We are looking at the Jesus condemnation that the church will not bring planet Earth to righteousness. And my purpose, of course, is to help you to understand that you worship in satanic places and that these churches are under the power. Well, let me put it this way. Over the past month, I have been teaching about the 7 churches of Asia Minor that in the Bible, in the book of Revelation, chapter 2 and 3. And I pointed out as well that the Apostle Paul I believe, made some error. In fact, I can prove he made error in some of the writings he did to the 7 churches that he wrote to. But we are able now to demonstrate that Solomon actually worshiped false gods. He did it. With all his wisdom and all of his money, he worshiped false gods. And let me say parenthetically here too, by the way, that Solomon, even though he worshiped false gods, the last woman he really loved and the last woman who he planted his seed in, and the woman he loved and trusted so much was that he gave her the Ark of the Covenant. I'll be speaking more about this on Saturday. But there was a woman called the Queen of Sheba. And Solomon had the Ark of the Covenant. His father, David, was a warrior. David would kick your you-know-what in a minute. And he had the Ark of the Covenant, and he left it in the care of his son. Solomon did not trust his sons, nor did he trust the scribes or the religious leaders. And he gave the Ark of the Covenant to a woman that he loved greatly, that he trusted. She was called the Queen of Sheba. And that Ark of the Covenant that was built by Moses, that had the rod of Aaron that budded, had a glass jar with the coriander seed manna in it, and had the 10 Commandments were all in that Ark of the Covenant, a sacred one, more sacred than the temple itself. Solomon gave that to the Queen of Sheba, and she took it back to Ethiopia, and it's being protected now at Oxum. We'll talk more about that because we're going to be demonstrating that at a worship this coming Saturday at the Passover worship service. But having said that, Solomon, it is clear, as an engineer, would you do it one more time, please? Thank you so very much. Solomon worshiped false gods. Now, if Solomon worshiped false gods, what do you think about Franklin Graham? What do you think about Joel Osteen? What do you think about all of these TBN and all these hustlers you see all up and down on television everywhere? They're worse than Solomon. Far worse. They're far worse. But we also saw that Jesus said to Peter in Mark's Gospel, chapter 8, verse 33, he said, he called Peter, he said, "You the devil." Because in this event, in Mark's Gospel, chapter 8, verse 33, and this is for a mature audience. This is not for little lightweight Christians who've been running around with Franklin Graham and Joel Osteen, who think God will just forgive you about every little thing and you just keep on sinning, forgive, keep on sinning. That's the biggest lie that's ever been told. But here, Jesus said to Peter, because Jesus was getting ready to go to the Passover, celebrate the Passover, and then to the cross. And Peter said, "Don't go." And Jesus turned around. He didn't just, willy-nilly try to be politically correct and not to hurt his feeling. He busted a cap on Peter. He said, "Look here, boy, let me tell you something. First of all, don't you ever try to tell me what to do. Don't you ever tell me what to do. But secondly," he said, "Get behind me, devil." He called Peter the devil. Now, if that is, and you see it right there, you see it as Jesus said it, you know it's biblical. We want to point up as well that there are things that Solomon did were wrong, the things that Peter did were wrong, and I've pointed out there are things that the Apostle Paul, you get the entire 14th chapter of the book of Romans is just one thing right after the other that's clearly anti-God, anti-law, anti-truth, anti-righteousness, anti-purity. I can't imagine what got a hold of the Apostle Paul to write that. or the chapter 3 of the book of Galatians, or chapter 2, at least chapter 2, verse 16 of the book of Colossae, and other verses within Paul's writing to the 7 churches. It's just hard to imagine why he did that. Of course, we also understand that we got started by saying that there were no Japheth prophets. And I'll have to tell you, there is personally my desire to say to the Hamite brother, the slave here in America, that God called you to be a slave to Japheth. God called you. Now, the brutality, I don't see that announced, but when God told Abraham that his children would be slaves to my father Ham in Egypt, God also told them that there's going to be brutality. You're going to be treated, you're probably going to be hanged, castrated, abused. Ham is going to do that to you and your children, but in 400 years, I'm going to bring you out. And it was awful what happened to the Jews by my father Ham. It was awful what happened to the Canaanites and the Hamites here in America, in American slavery. But God called it. God called it into being. And the window to see that, to open, when you look at that, then you can also see, but Japheth, he is the white man, the Caucasian man. He had, though he's built America, one of the great nations of all times, he plays very little importance in the Bible. God's authority level goes with Shem, the firstborn. The firstborn is always the one to get the lion's share. The next, the knee baby, as it would be called in North Carolina, was Ham. And the last son of Noah is Japheth. And Japheth is almost invisible in the Bible, the white man. The white man, he is almost invisible in the Bible. And God doesn't even address him to the very close of all things of the Bible. God don't even talk to him. You don't have no Japheth prophets. You don't have no Japheth institution. God don't even talk to the white man until the Bible's just about to close out, and he finally sends Paul. And then Paul's get some things that, again, I pointed out that I think that, we got to revisit. But my father Ham and Shem, they are the Bible. They are. And those are some things that, again, very imbalanced and immature and jealous and all kinds of other spirits within the churches and every place else would negate. But my purpose is to help the Shemite man, the Hamite man, and the Canaanite man come to terms with accepting slavery. I know that sounds like I'm talking out. What on earth? How can you accept that? Because it's Bible. The Jews were slaves too, my brother. And so stop all this Black Lives Matter. Stop all this civil rights. Stop all this nonsense. Stop all this hatred. Stop all this racial contention. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. And turn to God for righteousness. Now, he's not going to do it. Well, we know he ain't going to do it. He's not going to do it. But the Bible is clear that God called them to be slaves. I said a few moments ago, Billy Franklin Graham and all that crowd run around and tell you, oh, just come to Jesus, and everything gonna be all right. No, man. God's got to look in a crowd of 1 million or 10 million or 20 million people and spot you and call you out. The Bible says that Andrew got called of Jesus into the discipleship. And Andrew did something that was a bit unusual because he was the firstborn. Andrew went and found his brother Peter and says, I found the Messiah. And he brought Peter to Jesus, and Jesus accepted him. One has to be actually picked out of a crowd of 1 million. Many are called, but few are chosen. One has to be picked out of a crowd of 1 billion people, and God calls him. And then the other people have to get under the tutelage and the training of the one that's been called. And that's how that is. That's been Bible since the days of Abraham, since the days of Joseph, since the days of Jacob. It's been Bible since the days of Jesus and the 12 disciples. It's been Bible. And Mr. Engineer, you put it up again, that no man can come to me. You just can't. You have to be called. The Father has to call you. And nobody can come except he get drawn. Now, the word draw means that you've been called. But if you haven't been called, you can run around and say, well, I did a whole lot of things. I want to be forgiven. And, there's a great event in the Bible where a short man named Zacchaeus, or Zacchaeus, depending if you're Pentecostal, you say Zacchaeus. If you're Baptist, you say Zacchaeus. And Zacchaeus was, not Zacchaeus, I'll say both, was up in a tree because the short man Jesus was coming by. And there was a whole lot of people in that crowd that day. There were tons of people on that Palm Sunday when Jesus was passing by. And Jesus said, he said, Zacchaeus, come down out that tree. We're going to your house for lunch, brother. Because Zacchaeus had a big spread. That boy had a house. He had a veranda. He had a big porch with marble floors and, great marble and oak tables and a lot of food, a lot of service. All the boys went to Zacchaeus' house. That's when Jesus really splurged because he'd get ready to go to the cross. He really splurged on that one. But you got to be called out the tree, brother. You got to be called. You just can't walk up the G. I mean, okay, all right, do that Franklin Graham stuff. Again, this is a very mature lesson. It is, but it's mature time. And he doesn't have to hear, let him hear what the Spirit is saying to the churches today. And I know that there are people that know me. There'll be people that are going to hate. People are going to be angry. People are going to refute me. But they can't show any Bible verses. There are going to be people who are going to be angry at the fact that Japheth, that is the white man, plays very little importance in the Bible in totality. There are going to be people that are going to have that spirit. There are going to be people that are going to be angry with me that I said that Solomon worshiped the devil, but he did. There are going to be people angry that said that Peter worshiped the devil, Lord, but Jesus said it, I didn't. But there are going to be some, one or two, that will hear me, and we're going to build a strong preparation and landing place for Jesus to come back when he comes back to Harlem, which is now named ATLAH, when he makes his return. Over the years, we have served more than 1 million meals to hungry bellies and hungry people here in the Harlem community. And I wanted you to be able to see that. I want you to see our involvement with youth, our summer youth programs, our courtyard being used as a place where children can be safe, guarded, and protected as they have their miniature swimming pools, and a safe place for children to eat that is guarded, that is protected by our own sense of security, and the wholesome and fresh meals that we serve. We wanted you to be able to see the mission of this church. And we've been doing this for years. Just recently, one of our members, more than a 30-year member of this church, but it hasn't, not one that, that you would probably find as members of some other churches with their nose stuck up in the air. But her father is now close to death or very sick in the state of South Carolina. And I said to her, well, because she doesn't have money, I said, we will buy you a bus ticket, a round trip bus or train ticket for you to travel to South Carolina to be with your father in this time of pandemic. There's very little funding around. There's sickness everywhere. And the thing that just blew me away was she said, as she was talking to Elizabeth, she said, but how are you going to do that, to pay for me a round trip ticket to travel and give me expense money? And because Pastor Manning has to feed the children, he has to educate the children, he has to buy school supplies for them, he has to pick them up in the mornings and take them back, and then he's got the ministry he has to take care of, all the bills of running the church, of keeping a major house like our house operational, keep the lights on, how are you going to be able to do that? And she was almost reluctant to take the money, because she felt that it would be better served by feeding the children. We gave it to her anyway. But we want you to know that we do a work in this community. There have been a lot of lies told on us. And it's almost unimaginable why some of the people that have lied on us. But I can tell you behind all of it is the LGBTQ community. They don't want us to be successful, but we are, and we're going to continue to be successful in serving the meals that we're serving and serving the people that we are. And the LGBTQ community will not take us down. They are not going to take our church. Yet they've defamed us. They've written ugly newspaper articles about us. They've marched against us. They've done a whole lot of ugly things. But you see what we have done, and that's not even the half of our service to children and to the needy in terms of our homeless shelters and the things that we've done over the years. And we will continue. And probably the lies and the smears and the ugly newspaper articles and the wicked spirits and the so-called I ain't for the black man, that is not going to go away. I don't expect it to go away. I don't. But I do tell you this, that we will succeed against all of that, for God is with us, and I am his servant. This is symbolic. It's where Jesus was baptized. It's where John baptized. And so this is not a rebaptism. It's just a symbolic, if you will, act of what we're going to do, being in the water at the place where Jesus was baptized. And what I'd like to do is to baptize today, that we would come to terms with the understanding of what God is calling for in righteousness. He's not calling for prosperity. He isn't calling for culturalism. God is calling for righteousness. If we would commit ourselves to fulfill all righteousness, and God has calls us to be persecuted for righteousness' sake, as John was persecuted for righteousness, and so Jesus. I got to tell you that I'll never forget this experience of actually stepping in the water where Jesus were baptized and where John has baptized so many people. This is such a historic and a powerful, powerful sight. Just to touch the water was so critical. And I'm glad that people got baptized to have that experience. It was a safe experience and a great experience. I'm not even going to change my clothes. I want to just stay in baptism mode until I get back to the hotel. So that's what I want to say. All right.
This has been live from the Jordan River. God bless you all. Peace.
Righteousness. Boom, chakalaka goes right there.
My mother started liking the school and let me come here every single year. It has been 5 years and now I'm in the 7th grade. I still love this school. It has taught me a lot of things about the world and all around it, and let me see things I've never seen before, like me participating in the history fair last year. I would like to give thanks to all my classmates for making me feel comfortable and at home here. Please, to all the new and old parents in the school, don't take your kids out of the school, because it will probably be the biggest mistake you've ever made. No matter what type of child you have, this school will shape it into a world's leader. So do yourselves a favor. Oh my goodness. Okay. So do yourselves a favor and keep your kids here till they graduate, and it will change yours and your child's life. Peace and blessings.